Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. Ladies and gents, welcome back to Blue Grit Radio. This is your host, Eric, and today I'm joined by Erica from TacMobility. Erica, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Yeah, I'm super glad to be here. Are you an Eric with a C?
I'm Eric with a C.
My guy.
Yeah, so we're on the same wavelength, and we were just talking before the recording. We're like borderline millennials, so we're on the same wavelength of what we're talking about. But yeah, for those that don't know, the uninformed, I mean, just as you're listening, just type in TacMobility, TAC mobility, and you'll see the type of content, you'll see the type of material that we're going to be talking about, and it goes from the name, mobility, physical, but also like it ties right into mental, acuity, performance, everything, all that good stuff that we and you as listeners of the show know are directly intertwined. But and without further ado, Erica, can you just tell us about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your origin story. What brought you here to this point here today?
Yeah, I really wanted to just be a part of a holistic solution to so many people experiencing stress and overwhelm and toxic stress for sure. There's so many people that are unhappy with their jobs, with their lives. And I think it's a really unique position that first responders find themselves in, specifically cops, in that you don't really have a choice in not dealing with people and their stuff. And you don't really, well, at least in the past, you haven't really had control over how that impacts like your body. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a part of the solution and helping people to feel better. If you feel better, you do better. That is just how human beings work. And yeah, I wanted to introduce a new way of looking at wellness that wasn't just presentation focused, workshop, here's information, here's a sad story, and then, go on. And I hope that you do something. We really, really wanted to get people moving their bodies and like feeling what wellness is like.
Yeah. Yeah. So even before that point, like what brought you into wellness, to the holistic approach, and what brought you into the first responder culture?
Well, I fuck with wellness. Like that is my jam. Like self-awareness, self-discovery, like yoga, all of that stuff is really impactful in my personal life. And it's been a part of my journey since I was 20 and I'm 39. So I've
Yeah.
been involved in movement therapy for a really long time. And I had gotten my yoga certification. And around the time that had happened, I was interacting with law enforcement at conferences. So I was selling switchblades, and it was, yeah, like I felt very different being around a bunch of cops because, like, I had like
Sure.
my little crystals in my bra, and I even have a little crystal necklace on right now.
Oh yeah.
So
What kind of crystal is that?
I don't know what it is, but it's something with like
No,
love
you're
or
supposed to
something.
say something and what it's doing for your
I don't know.
energy,
I mean,
your
it's very
chakras.
just cute and sweet. So I really
Okay,
love
that's cool too. You like it, yeah.
it.
Okay.
But I just felt really different and odd, but I fit in really well with the community. Like I talk like you guys. I fuck
Yeah,
with
you already dropped an F-bomb. Yeah, oh, you're going another one. No, it's okay.
yeah,
No,
like
I fully support your expression. I've just people that know me know that I swear, but I try not to on the show for whatever reason.
oh,
But not
I'm
to
not gonna do that.
abridge anyone. No, no, no. I want you to be you. I want you to be your authentic self here today.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to not swear. I swear in all my presentations, like my trainings. Because it's
That
just me.
actually is a great way to bridge with cops. So I'm actually hurting myself by putting the filter on.
I mean, I've definitely seen that it helps. Like it does. It helps engage with people because I think a lot of times, like people who are teaching concepts about the body or the mind, wellness, they're very like stuffy and boring as shit, and
Yeah, yeah,
I can't vibe with that either. So
yeah.
that was really why I wanted help. Is I felt very comfortable around cops. Like I felt very welcomed in the community. Granted, I was selling these really cool tools.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so just interacting with cops, I realized the more stories that I heard that there was a lot of stuff going on that wasn't being talked about, and the easiest way to um I think get people to deal with what's going on is to look at their body.
Yeah.
How if A lot of people can't like move without feeling like the tin man in the morning.
Mhm.
And that is not a great way to live your life. That just really starts to impact like how you see yourself and your mental health altogether. Um, so yeah, so I just started doing yoga around cops, and people started making fun of me, and then pretty soon they're like, "Oh, this chick is cool." And then, when no one was watching, I'd get somebody to do a stretch and they'd be like, "Oh my God,
Mm.
that was I feel like a new person." And I was like, "That was the most basic ass thing I've ever shown someone. What are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
then I realized, like, oh, this is completely foreign. Like,
Mhm.
self-care is not common.
Yeah. Like, yeah, stretching is almost like a forced reaction because it hurts so bad. You're just like out of your car, or you're like taking off your gear, and you're literally stretching to alleviate pain, not to rehab like ongoing, not to do preventative care, which is so much of what I love. When I found your page years ago. Yeah. What are some of your? I mean, I'm jumping ahead to what I wanted to hit, but just since you mentioned stretching, like if people
Yeah,
wanted to get in the YouTube or scroll your page, like what are some of the low hanging fruit, easy to do stretches, maybe even at
bro,
work? Yeah.
bro. Like, easy to do at work. If you're okay, you know how you guys like 69 your cars and you guys are like hanging out at night or during the middle of your shift?
We call it, car to car, or like, yeah, okay, yeah,
Well, from an
you call it
outsider
whatever you
perspective,
want.
it is 69ing. Anyways.
Not inaccurate. Okay.
Well, like, you have a brief moment. And I think a lot of times that happens. Like, I mean, unless you're working in a city where you're just call to call to call, a lot of agencies do have quite a bit of downtime. Um, and if you go back behind like a grocery store, or you go to your little spot that you usually hang out in,
Mhm.
get out of your car and like standing outside your vehicle, put a heel on your bumper or open up the back of your SUV, put your foot on the inside and stretch your hamstrings.
Mm.
Or if you're standing
Okay,
next to
so,
your
like, just to rewind, so putting your heel on your bumper, are you facing away from the car or towards the car?
you're facing towards the car,
Mhm.
you would have to be because you
Yeah.
can't.
I
So you're
mean,
facing the vehicle.
yeah, okay.
And then just lift a foot up and put the heel on your bumper,
Yep.
or on the inside of your door, like a hamstring stretch where
Yep.
your
So
chest
your
is up.
leg is extended.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And then leaning forward. It's a really small movement that you can do in full gear, but it has a lot of reward to it.
Mhm.
I think people typically think about their body in these segments like, "Oh, my back hurts," or, "Oh, my shoulders hurt," or, "Oh,
Yeah.
my hips hurt."
Mhm.
Not realizing that all of our muscles are connected in some way.
Yeah.
Um, so being able to target really any type of stretch is going to have positive implication on the entire body itself. So hamstring stretches are really good. Quadricep stretches, like the front of your thigh.
Mhm.
If you're standing and you can bend down and grab a hold of your ankle and kind of bring your heel towards your butt, that's going to stretch the front of your legs, which a lot of your guys' tension comes from the front of your body because you're seated for such extended periods of time.
Yeah.
Um, so small stretches like that really do make a really big difference. And I think wellness, yes, we can talk about mental health, it's important. But on just a basic level, people, I think, just want to be pain free.
Yeah.
And chronic pain is a really big issue within your guys' community.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved how we glossed over it pretty quick, but for those listening, they're like, I got to get my leg up or my foot up on the bumper and I got to Tahoe. No, like, you can pick a lower point, right? Pop your door open. It could be
Yeah.
the footboard, right? And a lower point, a curb. If you want to go there, you got to start somewhere. And so I love those. Those are so tangible. And I would even venture this of like, if you have people running from you all the time, like maybe if you kicked your heel up and you stretch out your quad as like you're the cover officer, like I don't know, if it was me, I'd be like that dude's ready to form tackle me if I try
Oh,
anything. It's
100%.
like
Look at him. He's fucking
limber
getting
up.
ready. And we
Yeah,
have
like
We have stretches on our website and on YouTube. We've been doing these stretches for a long time, and you can just search like TacMobility stretches, and we show you accessible stretches for when you're on duty, and then other ones where you're at home and you're in gym clothes or
Yeah.
you're in shorts or whatever. So there's so many ways to do it. It's one of those things where it's like it's simple yet really hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that what I love about you starting with the hamstrings is like the posterior chain, right? So like for those listening that are unfamiliar, like the back of us, right? Because we can see the front, like your typical bro, like okay, chest and biceps, like I can see it, so there's a more tangible, I suppose, dopamine hit to what I can see. But like no, oftentimes we're hunched forward, we're in our cars, we're seated at desks, we're typing, we're twisting our bodies, but also all the gears pulling us forward, and
Yeah.
so an emphasis on what's behind. I think that's huge, and I
Well, it's
know you have a lot
actually
about that.
well, it's actually the opposite because the backside is what's open because everything is being pulled forward.
Yeah,
Stretching the front of the body and opening what you're actively like closing is what can alleviate a lot of pain. So, doing stretches for your psoas, like a runner's lunge,
hmm
that's a pretty common one. You can fucking Google it. Like it's so
yeah.
common.
Okay, so an
But yes,
example being like, there's the kind of arm up 90 degrees doorway stretches to open up your pectorals, right? Like your chest.
yeah.
So, okay, so that makes sense, right? Stretching the front, but maybe I was thinking more like working the back, like using those
Yes,
muscles.
that's
Okay,
gonna
yeah.
help to counterbalance everything that's being pulled forward. So, a big issue that cops are experiencing is, like, in between the shoulder blade pain and tension, or they get a lot of chronic headaches
Yeah.
and, like, trapezius muscle pain, like the tops of your shoulders.
hmm
When you're weighted down and you're pulled forward, you're not engaging the muscles that are in the back, and if you were strengthening those areas you can actually start to manage the amount of weight that's pulling you forward. Like that's the thing is you're having to manage gravity and weight and that can get pretty tricky over time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. What are your thoughts on that position I described where you're sitting in your car so much and then you're twisting not like just one side, like, or yeah, just one side,
Yeah,
you're only twisting to the right.
garbage.
And that has shown up in my x-rays, like after I tweaked myself and the chiro was like explaining like my spine. I was like, would it have, is that actually lined up with me twisting this way? She's like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, what
Are
should people think about when they want to counteract that?
when you are on the range and you are practicing your drills, whether you're dry firing or you're in like that type of environment, you're trying to develop a muscle memory. You're trying to lower the amount of like thought power that goes into these movements. You want your body to just automatically do these things um to produce like a good outcome,
Yeah.
a more manageable outcome. Well, your body is all wired the same way. So whatever it is that you're practicing enough, it begins to develop a muscle memory and your bones can begin to change like how like where they hold themselves in position. And as soon as you start to change the structure, you're really going to start to impact well, how do those organs how are those functioning in that right area on the right side of your body when everything is compressed there?
Mm,
um your spine, each of your segments has to do with a different part in your body. So the more that you're practicing these dysfunctional patterns without taking time to sort of break that up and rewire or to support or strengthen those things, your body is going to just automatically go into these dysfunctional patterns. So if you're
yeah.
always to the right and you're hunched over, or your left arm is always propped on your car door, or you're always driving with your left hand, you're going to develop these like dysfunctional patterns that eventually feel like shit because
Yeah.
that's not functional. That's not optimal position for those body parts.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And like, I think a pretty common one for guys to recognize is it's pretty well socialized, whatever civilian, law enforcement, but sitting on a wallet, right? Like, that's pretty understood
Oh,
that
yeah.
that's going to cant your whole, everything.
Do you remember that? Wasn't there like a King of the Hill episode on that? Where he
Probably.
had like
But
his
it was like
wallet?
yeah, I mean, there's people like, the Seinfeld reference, like the George Costanza wallet that's, like, this big, and so, like, what that does to your whole physiology,
Yeah.
but it took me quite a while, like, where I was like, "Okay, I'll try not to sit on my wallet, maybe I'll move it around," and for years, I flip-flopped it, and then I started wearing a smaller wallet in my front pocket, which is great because who carries all
So,
these, library cards and all that BS now? You have app for everything. So, with that, though, like, it took me a while to recognize that, like, I have these thick gloves on one side, but then I have just like these
mm,
thin, like, just a handful of random, like, kind of disposable gloves on the other side. But
yeah,
then that thickness varies all the time because I'm using them and I'm like, what am I doing to, kind of offset that? And so I throw that out there for all the, especially patrol folks that are
yeah,
sitting on something, some amount of gear or some, wallet or some
yeah.
notepad or whatever.
I think like everything that you're saying and just getting curious about what things are doing to your body, I think that that really is the direction that is healthy because I don't know. I think just in my experience with meeting cops, you think that your body is just indestructible. Like it is just it's going to go, you can motivate it, you can make it and you can do all these things and that is true for like a certain length of time. And then eventually just like a vehicle that has to get oil changed, has to get serviced, your body is going to start giving you these various alarms,
Hmm.
whether that's chronic pain or whether that's inflammation or anxiety, whatever. And those are ways that your body is saying, we need to attend to this fucking body. Please do it. And the
Yeah.
longer that you ignore those alarms, the more intense your symptoms will become until eventually your body will make a decision for you. Case in point, if you've ever thrown out your back or if you've ever tweaked a
Hmm.
muscle and you were just like out of commission, your body will win. It will.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good metaphor, the car, the car metaphor because we use it a lot for burnout, like redlining your engine, right? We talk about that, but I loved how you when you illustrate it make me think about okay, if you're out of alignment, right? Like then you're just going to jack up your whole car whereas you could just get it
Yeah,
fixed pretty quick, right? And then if you your brake pads are out, you either replace the brake pads or you like F up your rotors like big
right. That's
time. Like
exactly what I was thinking was like, dude,
yeah.
your rotors will get
Yeah,
fucked.
so, like, minimal, work and cost, what it could exacerbate too.
Yeah.
Um, and maybe that's a perfect transition, right? Because, like, you come from a yoga background, most people, whether they practice yoga or not, recognize there's a mind-body connection there, and so,
Yeah.
as we talk about all these physical, benefits to minding your mobility and movement and stretching, there's a pretty obvious for most, and certainly the listeners understand the durability aspect of preventative care with all that. But let's
Yeah.
talk about mental. Like, let's talk about where that bleeds into our own mental well being. All these practices that you share and teach about.
You said a lot there, but one like so I was
I
doing
have
yoga
that
this
habit sometimes.
it's
Sorry,
like,
I'm
oh
just
fuck,
throwing
oh,
it like four
what?
questions at you at one time.
I have ADHD, so I was like, my brain like fixated on one thing. So we're gonna go with what my brain thought of.
Yes.
Um, when okay, so today when I was doing my yoga practice, I woke up just feeling very out of sorts. I'm going through some like personal stuff with a friend of mine, and I'm feeling very insecure and uncomfortable. And like yesterday, I snapped at my kids and I ended up having to apologize. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't really want to talk to my husband very much last night. Like, it just is kind of taking over my thoughts. And I got to the gym today, is leg day, and my body said, absolutely not. You turn this fucking car around and you go do some yoga. And for me, when I'm doing a yoga practice, there's so many thoughts and feelings that come up as the instructor is telling me to do certain things. Like my emotional weakness comes into play when she's like having me do this really strenuous like set of movements, and I'm just like, bitch, oh my god, like what is going on? And then I'm considering and thinking about just where my emotions and feelings are because I'm having to put my body in these different positions. Yoga has the ability to connect your thoughts and your emotions with what your body can do because your body is an expression of those things. We're completely intertwined as a human being. We can't separate our thoughts and emotions from our body. Like that's how our nervous system is set up. It's
Yeah.
our brain thinks of something and then our body does something. So it's yoga is a really great way to get in tune with what's going on below surface value, and then if I can regulate and get my body to do certain things, if I can calm my heart rate down, get my heart rate really high and bring it down, it's really showing myself that I have the ability to do that with my emotions as well. I can get in really intense experiences and feelings, but then I can also manage them and I can bring them down. So for me, it's such a great way to just connect with like something that's in front of me, like I'm not thinking about anything else because it does require effort, but this is something that I can manage and I get to see like a very there's like an immediate effect that I feel and it gives me a sense of control. So there's that aspect of yoga, but then there's also the aspect of yoga therapy, which is very different. Yoga therapy is what a lot of doctors will recommend when you're experiencing chronic pain, because again, the focus is awareness.
Hmm.
A lot of times when we're experiencing chronic pain, we'll try to ignore the pain and we'll shut off our awareness of those regions. And yoga therapy is really about like, how can we bring our attention to this muscle? How can we bring our attention to this supporting muscle? How can we bring our attention to something, maybe the counterbalance? And it really just helps you to consider like what all do I feel in that area and how can I like slowly start to bring strength back into those regions or stretching into those regions or mobility. So yeah, yoga is really incredible, and I think it sucks because so many people are like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not wearing stretchy pants.
Yeah, no, and I love it. I love that you're coming on talking about this more because, as I've said in prior episodes, like just the fact that I've had Kendall Wood on here and Vance Rowe, like it's just to talk about yoga specifically for first responders as well because we are so one undisputed thing, chronically high stress. Another undisputed thing, really uh unfavorable movement and mobility
Immobile
practice.
system.
Right. Yeah, like you're literally in these like body casts, right? Called a external vest or an internal vest, right? Like the benefit of the external is like deload some and you can take it
Yeah,
off more easily than other stuff, right? But then the belts and the boots and the sitting, right? All these things. So we're we're creating all these issues and then yeah, throw literal stress, throw literal potential violence, the hypervigilance.
yeah,
Most of us, even if we're a little averse to some discussions of mindfulness, we're going to go there next. But like if that sounds and feels too woo, then we really got to pause ourselves and again, like get curious. Like why do I feel averse to this, or how how may I actually be open minded to this? Because we know combat breathing's a thing, because we call it combat. It's cooler, right? But like
oh my
no,
god, it's so funny to me.
it's good marketing, right?
TacMobility. Like, I
Yeah,
was trying to do
yeah,
tactical yoga, and they're like, "Bitch, get out of here. We can see right through you." So
yeah.
it's like,
But
okay, well,
good.
let's introduce just mobility and moving. You don't have to do yoga. Like, there's so many weird things. Like, there's so many things about the tactical community and like the 2A community that I just don't fucking get. But there's like little things
Yeah,
that make sense to me that I'm like, oh, I can fuck with that. Like, and
yeah.
that's all you really need to do is like, what is helpful and useful, and then do more of that.
Yeah, and a lot of what you said, like I'm trying to process it for the more apprehensive crowd. And so when you
Yeah.
talk about some of the things you can do or some of the benefits of yoga and the connection of mind to body, like what we could say to a layperson that might be apprehensive is, hey, when you get super stressed, is there a physical manifestation of that? Like, is there one part of your body that really sucks, right? Like, it's headaches, it's migraines, it's eyeballs burning, it's tight shoulders, like tight jaw, like we know this is super common. So like, okay, like that the proof is in the pudding. Now, what do you want to do? What are you willing to do to low hanging fruit, just a little bit of practice, a little bit of routine to alleviate a lot of that. And man, if you want to take it to tactical, like performance, like if we want to open up our chest, like, and breathe better, so when somebody's fighting us or you're running code and you're dodging that person that pulled out in the middle of the intersection for 0% reason other than they freaked out and hit the gas, how do you react and keep a clear vision and clear performance? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
it's all intertwined. So yeah,
totally.
mindfulness though. Yeah, sorry, go
And it,
ahead.
like, gives you something else to think about. So, like, there are times, like, yes, yoga can get, like, deep dive into emotions and feelings and all the things. But, like, when you're feeling out of control, emotionally, but you're not even, like, aware of it, you're not thinking about it, you just feel like shit, and like you said, your body, like, it will show up in your tissues, like, how you're feeling. Being able to move your body gives you something that you can solely focus on that actually benefits you
Mm,
versus you could sit there and you could mindlessly scroll on your fucking phone, or you could, like, drink alcohol, or you could yell at someone, or there's all different ways that we process through our feelings and try to feel better.
yeah.
Focusing on like moving your body it's a beneficial, it's a healthy way.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Uh, Mindfulness. You Before we start recording, you're talking about a program you're developing. Sorry if that's a spoiler. We can cut this out. But no, like let's
Spoiler
tease it. You're gonna be rolling out this program. Let's talk
alert.
about that.
It's not a program. It's gonna be I was brought on by this company to do, like, a keynote presentation. So it's,
Okay, yeah.
it's just a presentation. But um yeah, like, they're like, we want to talk about mindfulness and what people are what people like about TacMobility is that we have the ability to take these foreign concepts and make them practical and approachable. So we're kind of taking a stab at how to look at mindfulness and meditation. And I think that just that word in general, like mindfulness, it feels like oil and water when it comes to the police world.
Hmm.
Because, gosh, like, when things are, like, dire, when you have, like, emergencies, you don't really have time for, like, feelings. So, like, the concept of, like, mindfulness feels odd. And that makes sense. But our bodies are, how do I want to, like, word this? Because I'm still, like, formatting the
Yeah, yeah.
talk. Um, but, like, I think of it like this. The statistics out there for first responders are fucking bleak.
Mm,
Like, they're not good. Okay? Like, I have been nose deep in case studies this last week, and I'm just reading publication after publication of people who are researching first responders and the long and short term effects of toxic stress exposure and being in these crisis types of situations. For shift workers, those are people who are up during, like, normal sleeping hours for more than, like, 2-hour increments. You will die an average of 15 years earlier than the average person.
mhm.
Being exposed as a first responder to stress. There was actually this study that was trying to find out the effects of COVID and how that impacted people.
Yeah, yeah.
And it increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, cognitive and physical dysfunction. There's so many issues. And then I look at the research that I've done, and as we've been collecting this, we're trying to see these trends of how stress works. And the biggest way that it's showing up is inability to focus,
Mm,
interestingly enough. So then I'm like, okay, well, here's where we get into it, because meditation and mindfulness really is about your ability to focus.
mhm.
Can you do that? And I don't know, it's just all very interesting to me. But meditation is really a chance for you to broaden your perspective and think about something other than what is directly in front of you, which may be like, I feel like shit, I hate my fucking job, like all these things. So meditation is an opportunity for you to just think about positive emotions.
Mhm.
Like, can you tap into the benefits of having a positive emotion, or are you going to be stuck in an unhealthy thought loop that's obsessively thinking the wrong things?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot. You said a lot there, and I think it's also valuable, right? Like just the focus aspect, because again, if we rewind it back and people are like, "Ugh, mindfulness meditation, I'm about to turn this off." It's like, well, do you want to be able to focus? Like so often in first responders, cops especially, they they're the self prescribed or diagnosed, or sometimes actually diagnosed, like ADD, ADHD, right? They're active types, active mind. And then you have that stress aspect where you're always thinking about work, you're always thinking about that call, you're always thinking about this and restless. So, okay, so focus, would that not help that? Would that not help your life? Would that not help you in the moment of critical judgment? Sometimes it's life or death. Sometimes it's like a deadly force. Like these are real things. Like, would you not want to aid that?
Yeah. So I was just talking with a colleague of mine. She helps people to increase their focus and kind of correct ADHD or ADD. And she was talking about like most people think that they have an issue focusing, like I can't focus. But really, they are able to focus. She's kind of countering the argument going, you're hyper focusing on the wrong thing.
Mm,
We have like two different types of focus. We have like zoomed in and like totally narrowed focus, and then we have like a broader focus. And the way she's explaining it is that we have to learn how to tap into that broader focus, which is associated with our right hemisphere of the brain versus the left, which is
mm,
zoomed in. So, meditation and mindfulness is really just about understanding that there's so many various parts to how our brains work. So, if you're thinking about it in terms of like decision making, you want to be able to at times you want to be able to shut out peripheral noise. If you have like a very critical task at hand, you need to have that tunnel vision, that like narrowed focus, like laser precision. And then there's other times when you might be in more of like a supervisor role, or you're assessing danger, where you do need to be able to broaden that.
yeah, yeah.
So meditation really helps you to practice those skills
Mm.
more so. And I think that that's just the more kind of tactical way of thinking about how meditation helps.
No, I think that's fantastic, and yeah, I love how you describe that because it's a good twist on it. Whereas you take something that sounds like a debilitating condition, right? Like, oh, I can't focus. Like, no, you absolutely can. You're hyper focusing, or your focus is scattered. Like, how do we hone in that laser and
Yeah.
direct it where you want to? Um,
Yes. That right there, like learning how to direct your own focus, like that's fucking it, dude.
there you
Like
go. You can
meditation.
have that. That's for your keynote.
I'll do a little snippet.
Nice.
But like I posed a question out to our community, like, what is like your major ick with meditation? Like, what makes you just fucking cringe about it? And someone was like, I cannot shut off my mind. I'm thinking of a billion other things that
Hmm.
are going on. Like, my mind does not stop. And I think that that's where the issue and the disconnect is.
That's the myth. Yeah, that's a prevailing myth, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Meditation is practicing your ability to notice what's happening peripherally, but then go, oh, this is what I'm actually choosing to put my attention on. I am just choosing to think about my breath, or I'm just choosing to think about gratitude. It's can we direct our attention?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about this twist? Because like I toggle in and out of moments or maybe practice of mindfulness, but I've been trying to be more specific about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And sometimes that is if I go on a run. Sometimes it's like, no, I'm not going to listen to anything. I'm just going to listen to like my surroundings, right? Or
Mhm.
it's like it's a nice freaking day, so I'm gonna get out and just think about how nice of a freaking day it is, right? Like, and that there's like an intention there, and like if my mind wanders away, I'm like, no, just keep looking at the trees, keep looking at the sky, and just be
Yeah.
in the moment. But
Yeah.
that takes focus. Like it's a different kind of focus. What are your thoughts on something like that for people that might be lower hanging fruit, that might be easier to access for them?
I think that that's like your body going like, "Hey, I think that this might be enjoyable." Like you're getting some type of benefit from that. And that's like
Yeah.
your intuition, where sometimes we just need to get rid of the stimulation. Like,
Yep.
we're in this fucking, like, time in history where everything is, like, vying for our attention.
Yep. Mhm.
At all times, our phones have all these, like, fun colors on them. We're all connected to social media in some way. Oh, I wanna learn, like, podcasts, right? Like, I love, oh my god, can I just learn? I have a slow moment
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that, like, if your body is going like, "I just wanna shut everything off and listen," I think that that's really, like, our intuitive way of going like, "Oh, yeah, I'm a human being."
Yeah. Too
Like,
much. Like, yeah, just toggle down. And because
mhm.
that's the thing where so many of us are doers, we want to be productive. And so for years, I stopped listening to music when I worked out. And it would always be like a podcast and like, which podcast am I going to listen to? And then this
Yeah,
one's kind of, I'm not feeling it. And then I find another one. Whereas now it's like, okay, no, sometimes I just want to, I like music and that's okay. That's awesome, right? Like, I'm
yeah,
going to enjoy this workout more. I'm going to have a better workout because I'm in that frame and not all the time, right? So sometimes the run is like, no, I do want to listen to this thing rather than recognizing for years, like, I just felt obligated. Like, I felt like if that was my time, I had to make more
yeah.
of it, which is that's not good. That's not great.
Yeah, dude, we gotta connect to some of that shit. Like, there are huge benefits, like health benefits of just being in nature and listening to the birds. Like, I'm not a Christian, but I remember, like, there was some, like, scripture about, like, the birds, like, don't give a fuck about problems or something to that effect.
I think that's verbatim. Yeah.
But, like, there's something about, like, realizing that you're sitting here and you've got all these problems and whatever, but, like, the world is carrying on. Like,
Mhm.
nature is naturing. It's
Yeah.
doing its fucking thing. Like, can you tap into that? And so we would call those, like, walking meditations or running
Yeah.
meditations where
Yeah, I
you're
love
just
that.
allowing life to happen without considering the weight of your problems and everything that you have going on. You're just perfectly content to just be in that cycle. It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I love that because it's to recap, that's exactly like it's blowing all these myths out of the water, right? It's meditation and mindfulness is not sitting with your legs crossed thinking of nothing. It's the opposite. It could be literally the opposite, which is walking thinking about one specific thing or thinking about your family, right? Just family, gratitude. Oh my gosh, like I have so much abundance and family,
Yes.
family and just like keep repeating the mantra of like, hey, today's going to be a great day or today
Yeah.
is a great day or what have you, whatever thing you want to focus on.
Meditation happens all the time. Like, I was just talking with this firefighter captain guy yesterday, and where we live in Tucson, an officer just was killed in the line of duty.
Hmm.
And he was like, I'm trying to figure out if we want to put something into, like, the conference, if we want to do like a moment of silence. And I don't know what, like, how much are we going to let this kind of change things? And I was like, I think that you should let it because, like, we're here to talk about, like, mindfulness and meditation, and grief is its own version of meditation.
Wow. Yeah.
Meditation being like you're focusing in on something so intently. Grief, despair, apathy, frustration. When you sit and think about those things for long extended periods of time, you are in fact meditating. But because you're meditating on emotions that are a lower vibration, and we can go into, like, vibrations and how those work, um, because you're focusing on those things, they have negative repercussion on your body and on your nervous system versus, like, I'm going to introduce a different type of emotion or thought, and that is going to have a positive impact on my nervous system. So, like, I'll just explain it. So, like,
Yeah.
um
I was going to make you anyway. So,
okay, well, we know that we have fight or flight, right?
hmm,
We have fight or flight when we are experiencing threat. We feel like we're not safe, we go into fight or flight. So the emotions that are associated with fight or flight, they're not like, oh, I'm loving everything, or, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's contrasted with
yeah.
rest and digest, which is everything is okay. Like, I feel content, I feel fine. This is a safe environment. And we have a different side of our autonomic nervous system that goes into action. So choosing which emotions we want to feel more of is a way of regulating the body so that it gives information back to the brain and starts it kind of like undoes the cycle of like, oh, I have a bad feeling, okay, my body is going to do something to prepare for danger. It's if I regulate my body, it's going to send a safe message to the brain, which means that the brain is going to give off safe signals, causing the body to reciprocate, to mirror that.
Hmm.
So meditation really is a way of going, I recognize that what I'm feeling right now is putting me in a state of threat or disease or unease, whatever. Oh, disease. Funny.
Yeah.
Unease.
Disease. Yeah.
I want to change that. It's not avoiding, it's going like, this is not helpful or useful to me in this moment. What's something more positive that I could do? So, yeah.
Yeah. I that was earlier. I mean, you kept going, and so my mind's trying to catch up. But that was
I'm
such a
also trying
kind
to
of
like piece these together. Like
yeah.
I'm writing my talk right now. So this is
No,
good.
that's good. And so you'll have this as a resource. But yeah, the grief is meditation. Like that's kind of a mind blow mic drop for me because I'm thinking on how we grieve, and oftentimes there's just, I mean, it has its own cycles, and I don't want to go down the rabbit hole there. But I can think of times of grief where at a certain point it became me focusing so positively, like losing a friend or losing my canine or what have you. Like there was the despair aspect that you point out, and you're ruminating, and like there's times where it's just dark. You're just thinking just dark thoughts. This is so bad despair, yuck, all of it sucks. And then there's the flip. Usually, we most of us can get there where it becomes the celebration of life. It becomes the gratitude. It becomes the
Mhm.
legacy. It becomes
Yeah.
the what you're grateful for, the memories and the experiences, and paying it forward, and sharing story and all that. And so, like literally, you can feel like I even feel myself feeling different about it, even as I'm describing this thing that was like years ago, or these things that were years ago. Like I feel myself lighter, talking about those things. Like I feel my face kind of pulling back, and so it's so interesting when we can think about like what are we allowing ourselves to meditate? Because that's the catch. It's like you're meditating on something, and
Yeah.
it's either like this be let's talk about law enforcement culture. It's this BS, this dumb admin. It's this state,
Yes.
the politicians,
Bro.
or you're like, yes, and not yes, but like, and what am I doing actively to support me, my family, my team the best I can? You got to run your lap. You can't control everything. And I'm going to be the best I can be. And a lot of that starts with mind and body. Like that's literally what I can control. Like no one can control that for me. No one can encourage, like sure, encourage. No one can make me go on a walk and get some vitamin D and move and breathe. But I can, right? I can choose what to do.
Yeah. And like the goal of mental health, like having a healthy mind, mental health, is to not always just be in a great mood and like nothing fucks with you and you're optimistic all the time. And but the goal is that as those cycles of pain arrive in your life, like they do everyone's,
Mhm.
that you're able to ride it, not stay in it. Like grief is something that you have to experience because without it, we wouldn't know what like deep love and like just,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So we have to have those like unwelcome emotions. It's the counterbalance to life, but we don't want to get to a place where we're stuck there. And if we find our place, if we find ourselves stuck there, if we recognize that that is just a dysfunction, something that can be rewired, then really, like, God, that's like a fucking light at the end of the tunnel. It's like someone throwing you a lifesaver. Like, you don't have to be like this all the time. There are small ways that you can get out of that, whether you're fucking with meditation or not, whether you want to go to a counselor, whether you're going to physical therapy, if you are doing cold exposure, if you're doing hyperbaric chamber. There's so many ways for us to change the um the output of our body so that we're learning to balance it. And
Yeah.
over time with that memory, we learn like that healthy balance.
Yeah.
I think.
Absolutely. I mean, we've covered so much ground, and we've gone to so many different aspects, and then how to like up level those themes and thoughts. Before we go to where people can find you, what you're working on, all your offerings. Is
Mhm.
there anything that you'd like to leave, kind of as like the big hitter things if we haven't covered them, or what you'd want people to focus on as the simple things that they can start with or consider?
I think, like, it's just where I'm at right now in my life, and I'll just share this, that, like, it's okay when your body and your brain are giving you signals that something needs attention. That is actually a healthy thing. You don't want to lose that. And when that shows up, it's an opportunity for you to pay attention to it and find out what your body needs. It's it's like that first round, like in an MMA fight, and like the bell rings and they go to the corner and they have people that are taking care of them. Like, our body is fighting for us. Like, it
Mm,
wants to keep us alive and it wants to sustain its life. So it's going to keep reminding you of ways to take care of yourself. Like, listen to that shit. Like, figure out what works for you. If that's fitness, do that. Like, there's so many outlets. So just the longer you ignore the voice, the louder it gets. So just honor that shit. You're a fucking human.
yeah, I love that. It's what I hear out of that is like give grace, like give yourself grace, be patient, uh, and yeah, let your body be your cut man. Like like
It'll
listen to
bounce
those
back.
signals. Yeah,
It's got a cycle. Like, it can't be on. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I run a business. I've got employees. Like, I'm always hustling. I'm a single parent. Like, I feel that shit. But
yeah,
like, it actually benefits us in the long term to like allow ourselves to kind of like ride that waves of like ups and downs and just kind of like honor the like the downs. Replenish ourselves in the downs so that we can have the energy to come out of that.
yeah. That's fantastic. Well, Erica, thank you so much, and please tell the listeners where they can find you. Beyond like the surface level of like, oh yeah, you have immeasurable value of content, but like how they can get a hold of you for
Yeah.
trainings or and on and on. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those people who are like, I have chronic pain, I feel like shit, I have like, I'm so busy, all the things, we have an e-course that's on our website, and you get lifetime access to, there's like an hour of mobility in there. There's some stress education. It's a really, really cool resource. And then we do in-service training. So your agency can bring us out, and we like fully engage at our trainings where we get everybody involved. We listen to what you guys are going through. Um, and yeah, we really just like spend time showing you how to take care of yourself, and so that you can walk away from our training feeling better rather than like having homework. So yeah, get your agency to hit us up, tacmobility.org. And then if you're just like cheap and lazy, go to the internet. We have all
Yeah.
kinds of free shit there.
Yeah. Start somewhere. Start somewhere. How big of groups do you do? And is that super flexible?
Huge. Yeah. So like I mean, I've trained up to 400 people. So, and we're
At
really,
one time with all your people?
yeah.
That
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
legit.
Yeah.
So, hey, like for those listening, aka to me, for those that, yeah, budget's a thing. So if you can collaborate with your neighboring agencies,
Yeah.
you get a bunch of people in a
Yeah.
room.
We
Yeah,
have open
fantastic.
enrollment. Totally. So if you have like low manpower, host it. Have people
Hmm.
out, like help us fill the room. Super accessible.
Yeah, love that. Well, thank you so much, Erica. The links and the site and all that will be in the show notes. Really appreciate this wealth of knowledge, and thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.